Good evening. You're watching Hindustan Times, and in focus today are the millions of migrants who, in the informal sector, who have felt the bulk of the negative impact of the lockdown. Helpless and hungry, they have, we've heard horror stories of them walking miles and thousands of hundreds of kilometers to reach their respective hometowns. Some have even died along the way. The central government, though belatedly, has started the Shramik trains now, but the walk continues for many migrants. And our focus today is to figure out who is to blame for this walk of despair. Let me start with Charu Pragya from the BJP, who joins us today. Charu, the railways yesterday said that it had ferried close to 2.10 migrants home via about 145 Shramik trains. This is really in line with the railways promise of operating more than 100 trains per day for our migrant labor so that they can reach the comfort of their respective homes. But do you believe, in hindsight, that this exercise should have started much before, given the situation right now?
Aditi, thanks for having me today. And while we are discussing the situation with the migrant laborers, and while we are talking about all the Shramik special trains which are working to take these laborers back home if they wish to go, we must also remember that a system like this is a two-way road. The central government is doing everything in its power to make sure the citizens of India are well looked after, whichever corner of the country they belong to and whichever corner of the country they are stuck in today. But like I said, it's a two-way road. We need an equal amount of cooperation and help from the state governments. Unfortunately, the problem we are facing today is more because of the lack of coordination from certain state governments to the central government. For example, the requirement of trains today is in very high numbers, but not all states are allowing these trains to come back in. It could be because they are lacking in creating enough opportunities to accommodate the return of these laborers. It could be because of other political reasons. Let me give you a few numbers for reference. So Uttar Pradesh has had 487 trains till now. Bihar has had 254 trains till now. West Bengal, only 9. So when you look at this vast difference in the number of trains which are going to certain states, and then you think about the insecurities that a lot of these laborers are facing today, we have to hold accountable those state governments which are not giving the required permissions on time, which are not giving the required assurances on time, and that has to be done. And this coordination has to flow smoothly. It has to be beyond politics. So, using your platform, I would like to make this appeal to all the opposition states specifically. Please don't make this about politics. There are people who might want to get back home. Those who want to stay back, great. But those who want to go back home to see their family for some time, it is your duty to accommodate them. It's your duty to give the requisite permissions for these trains to come. And it's like I said, it's a two-way road. So please join hands with the government and don't play politics at a time like this.
That's a fair enough ask, Charu, that not to play politics at this time. And I'm bringing in Professor Gourav Vallabh, who has joined us from the Congress here. Professor Vallabh, to Charu's charge and even the government's charge today, Piyush Goyal, he was very categorical. He tweeted that some states, and he named a few Congress ruled states like Chhattisgarh, like Rajasthan, who not gotten those many trains. Chhattisgarh with 2 trains, Rajasthan with another, two-figure number, but UP with a 400 something train, number of trains that have traveled for the Shramiks. Would you want to elaborate on that?
Ma'am, as expected from the current government, they lack the understanding of the constitution. There is a seventh schedule of the constitution, and under the seventh schedule, there is a union list, state list, and the others list. In union list, one item is mentioned that interstate migration and interstate quarantine is under union list. So it is the government of India's duty for facilitating this migration, number one. Number two, I always respect Charu because she come always prepared. But ma'am, may I ask one counter question? How many trains Gujarat government had requested for? Karnataka government had requested for? Himachal government had requested how many trains? Uttarakhand government had requested how many trains. That data Piyush Goyal is not giving you, ma'am. Why he is not giving? Because there are 8 crore migrants in our country. And historically, Aditi, most of these migrants, and Charu herself is from Uttar Pradesh, she understands these things. Most of these migrants are from UP, Bihar, Jharkhand. So comparing that state is not given the requisition of the train, why can't you compare that how many requisitions you received from the Gujarat state and then compare Gujarat with Rajasthan state, Charu? That will give a better picture that what state governments are doing at that part. And West Bengal, I am not here to say anything on West Bengal government because Mamata Banerjee is having a different party. But I can just tell, just like give an example of Jharkhand state that I am aware of. 50 trains were requested by Jharkhand government. And how many trains were requested by Bihar? As per Charu's data, it's 244. So, Charu, what is Jharkhand's population? 3 crore. What is Bihar's population? 10 crore. What is UP's population? 23 crore. So, if you will use that fraction, you will arrive at the same results. So, don't criticize for
So
the sake of criticism. And the first point, which is my fundamental point, that why you are, if union can't accept their duties which are given to them under the constitution, then resign. We give us the opportunity. We will run the government and we will show how this can be done.
can I
Okay,
interrupt
Professor Vallabh,
slightly
yes, please.
with your
Yes, I
permission,
think you,
Aditi?
yeah,
Can
please.
I just respond to two very vital points? The first one is Gaurav is making a comparison between the situation which is in Gujarat versus the other states. Let me remind Gaurav, the crisis all over India is the same. We are all in the same boat. But the laborers' crisis in Surat was handled well, and that is under control today. Whereas the same kind of a crisis which erupted in the city of Mumbai, which is also my city, was not handled well. It's completely out of control today. And I think this is where leadership plays a difference. My other problem today with the opposition, and this makes me very upset, and I can't even call it anger, it's way beyond that, is the fact that there's so much of misleading that is happening from the Congress party. So the Congress president Sonia Gandhi ji writes and says that the Congress party is going to be taking care of the expenses of the workers who need to get on the Shramik special trains. Madam, and I'm going to address her through Gaurav right now. 85% the central government has paid, 15% the state government has paid, 85 plus 15 is equal to 100% of the payment. What exactly is the Congress party doing? See, at least BJP is working around the clock to come up with solutions. There is money which is being transferred into their accounts. Our jam trinity has become a godsend today in the time of crisis, because it's because of this jam trinity that there is no pilferage. The money which is set aside to reach the needy is reaching their accounts directly. An amount of more than 28,000 crore has already been transferred, and all the economic stimuluses which is being injected by our government, the recent one of 20 lakh crore, as well as coming up with the whole idea of one nation, one ration card. All of this is directed to make sure the lives of these laborers are improved in the best possible way. My question to the Congress party is, one, you spread misinformation massively. Like I said, 85 plus 15 is equal to 100. I don't understand where that statement of Congress paying for anything came from. My second problem with the Congress party, sometimes the level of panic that is created is so high that people who would have otherwise been comfortable, otherwise would have been taken care of by their respective state governments wherever they are working today, they would have been given shelter and food. They are so worried that beyond the physical needs, their psychological needs have become bigger. And I understand that. I have utmost sympathy for the psychological needs of these laborers, because when the going gets tough for all of us, we need to see the faces of our loved ones. This is exactly what is happening with the laborers in our country today. They want to go back home. Why? Because there was a panic that was spread, there was a misinformation that was spread. Somebody was coming online and always poking negativity.
Right now, okay, I think let's let the bygones be bygones unless Professor Vallabh wants to come back on that. I'm talking about right now. When the Shramik trains are there, they are, sort of ferrying these migrants back. what is the, I mean, they are there to ferry the migrants back, but the migrants continue to walk. And I ask this question to you, Professor Vallabh. How is it that the migrants, and why is it that the migrants are continuing to walk despite the Shramik trains being there? Is it that the Shramik trains came in too late? They should have come in much earlier than this. The migrants should have been made, helped to sort of reach back their home. We anticipated the problem wrongly of the migrants. Secondly, many of them, they continue to walk despite the Shramik trains, because now that they've come into effect, obviously there millions of migrants are there. It will take a few days or maybe a couple of weeks for the trains to cater to all of these migrants. So, do you believe that the government should have brought in these Shramik
Aditi, can you hear me? Am I audible? Aditi, I can't hear you. Aditi,
No,
can you
I
hear
think
me?
I think Aditi is stuck, and before you joined us, she mentioned that her internet is a little shaky. So I think she's off air, and Chetanji is going to take over. Yeah.
No, the question basically is that, keeping the politics aside, isn't it an issue of a colossal failure of the governments, the political class, and the administration also? Because firstly, they were not able to gauge that a large number of migrants will be going back to their homes. Because on the lockdown, there was no clarity whether it will be withdrawn, whether it will be continued. Even today, there is uncertainty whether the lockdown will continue. If the lockdown 4 will happen, it will happen in what form. So this sort of an uncertainty has pushed the migrant workers to a brink of uh, all sort of a failure. They don't have any money, nothing left with them. So do you think that this is for the BJP person, that the government, the central government, was not able to anticipate the exodus of migrant workers from cities back to the villages in such a way? Yeah, Charu, you want to
Yeah.
respond? Yeah.
Yes, I do want to, and I think it is more than that. I think a lot of the problem also arises from the fact that the lists which needs to be compiled at the level of the state government has to be done extensively and quickly, so that everybody who wants to come back home is quickly accommodated. Another problem a lot of people are facing is that the helpline numbers which have been given, most of them turn out to be not reachable. We've been trying to help people get on trains, help them with registrations, and I have realized that a lot of these numbers also are out of reach very frequently. So right in the beginning I said this, the most important thing today is a flawless coordination between the state and the union government. And sometimes, like I said, when the psychological needs of the migrants become so pressing and they become so big, they would rather start walking because they feel they are in a hurry. That being said, I have also seen states which are making sure to do exemplary work. I know Gaurav will have a problem with this example, but I was in Uttar Pradesh very recently for relief work, and I noticed there was a row of buses, maybe to the tune of 300, 350 buses, all parked in a line, waiting for migrants to board. There were packets of food kept outside. So I am saying that it is not impossible to carry out this transfer and this journey in a seamless manner. But when you are not wanting to do it for whatever reason, maybe you want to blame the central government later, it just comes off on a very negative note.
Charu, I think you have made this point several times, but Madhya Pradesh is also a BJP ruled state where the two accidents, the major accidents which have happened in Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh, the Barwani district, which is the border with Maharashtra, which is a UPA ruled state, is seeing a huge chaos. And there's a lot of criticism of Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan that he has not been able to handle the COVID situation in Madhya Pradesh well. But Gaurav, I want to add you here that some of the states which are and the Congress rule states or the UP rule state, like maybe Jharkhand, which is receiving a large number of migrants, and Rajasthan, which is also receiving a large number of migrants. But and there has been some sort of criticism that like the Jharkhand government did not anticipate the problem much, and the facilities being provided at many of the quarantine centers for these workers who are coming back is not adequate. So, and second question is the lack of coordination between the central government and the state government. Do you think some sort of a politics also played a role in lack of coordination between the center and the state?
See, you have to understand why this problem arises. You gave 4 hour notice to a poor migrant that we are going for a 20 days lockdown. He is going to earn daily wages. His wages is going to be stopped. Then that 21 days extended for by 19 days, so 40 days are over. Then after 40 days, you told you can move by buses. Then the state government in Bihar said that we are not having buses. Then they said you can now move in the train, but we charge fare plus a special charge of 50 rupees. The migrants were showing that it's there everywhere in the social media platforms. And now they are saying state should do that thing. I'm saying constitutionally that work is supposed to be done by the government of India. Number one, Charu had not responded on that. Then I asked her that how many train requests were there by Uttarakhand government, by Gujarat government, by Madhya Pradesh government. She is keeping quiet because she knows that if she is going to stop, she can't make the things what she's trying to describe. Then the third question, which you had asked, that why state governments are responsible. I'm not running from my responsibility. Yes, we are in the government. We are responsible for everyone in that particular state. But what happened? You are not giving funds. We had 5 meetings with the Prime Minister. Our CM said 5 meetings. Then in each meeting, it was told that please give us our GST dues. That was not given. Every state is asking for 30,000 to 40,000 crore rupees of financial support at this time of distress. That is not given. And now you are saying state should take care of that. That's you are not giving rights to us. You are not giving constitutional powers to us. You are not giving financial powers to us. And now your irresponsibility, because the way you took the decision in a giving a notice of 3 hour 40 minutes, and you expect a migrant to move. Now also there are 8 crore migrants as per the finance minister. She had mentioned in her PC yesterday that 8 crore migrants are there. I'm saying for 8 crore migrants, how many trains are required? At least you have to run at least how many trains per day to UP Bihar, which they are not doing. They are saying we have only 400
Uh,
requests.
yeah,
This is mentioned by Charu herself. Don't blame for every misgovernance, for every things. You can't blame to the opposition parties. Whenever you ask something, they say 70 years, Nehru ji, Indira ji, Rajiv ji. You are there in the system for last 6 years. The people gave a mandate to you, and you are running from your responsibility. The constitution gave you a duty for ask for a duty that you have to provide interstate migration and interstate quarantine as per the seventh schedule of constitution. Union list, it is mentioned union list, and you are running from your particular. If you can't run the government, I will request Charu, please suggest Prime Minister that he can resign. We will govern. We will provide good governance to people of our country.
I think Charu needs to come back on that. That's a direct question for you, Charu. Please go ahead.
Aditi, thank you. I was muted. I would have interrupted earlier. But what I want to say is this. See, I think the role that Congress is playing right now, sitting in the opposition, doesn't seem to be a very responsible one. I'm the first one to say that everything is not utopian right now. I'm the first one to admit that the situation is not ideal right now. But we also must remember we are a country which is a population of 1.38 billion people. Also, we went into lockdown, but the day after that, every state government stepped up and said that we will actively take responsibility of all the laborers. We will make sure they are well fed, they are well taken care of, we will give them shelter. So, when Gaurav says that the central government has not done its bit, I'm sorry. It's a situation of you wanting to look at the world through dark glasses, and that should not exist today. The central government has done fabulous work. That being said, this is a situation which is unprecedented. This is a situation which has no previous way of a method of working that we could have looked up to as a precedent and followed that today. Keeping that in mind, if the country had not gone into lockdown, the way we have been managed to contain the curve. And I know you will throw numbers at me again, but please throw those numbers in relation to our population. Please explain those numbers in relation to how many infected people we have per million of our population. So when we keep all of that in mind, the lockdown and the way it was executed was vital for us. So today saying that things were not planned, I'm sorry, things were very well planned. But today saying that the way things have started resuming and the way the trains have been run is not being done as per plan, no, it is all as per plan. The government is working round the clock. And I would also say, I'm not saying the state governments are not working. I will also go on to admit the state governments which have the opposition parties in power will also be working. But politics has played a very big role in keeping coordination away.
Politics has played a role in
So
keeping coordination, and that of course, I mean, it's visible in on the ground in certain states. It's also visible in many BJP ruled states, Charu. Um, uh, the financial, but let me talk about the financial stimulus package for the migrants. Because the free food grains that Mrs. Sitaraman announced yesterday, 5 kilograms of free fruit grains along with 1 kilogram of chana per family per month for a period of 2 months. That is a great effort in the right direction. The problem is that the implementation has been left to the respective state governments. After some time, when these food grains don't reach them, will this again be a thing that center state coordination, and therefore, they didn't identify the beneficiaries quickly? Because how do we implement it? Yes, I understand that India is a very large country and with a huge population, but how do we take this forward? I mean, this can't. We are a federal country, and we have to operate under those conditions.
But the FCI godowns are all over India. They are located in different states. And when the central government gives a directive in a certain way, it is their responsibility to make sure the amount of grain that is required is collected. The PDS is at play. They are making sure this grain is being distributed. But Aditi, there is also a problem of misinformation. There's sometimes also a problem of illiteracy in a country like India. So even if the central government has made a policy which sounds absolutely perfect, the penetration of that information to the people on ground becomes a problem. And I understand that, because many times we'll meet workers or we'll meet people who can get food from the PDS, but they are not even aware that they will be getting some extra food grain today. So we all need to work on a system which conveys the messages of the central government to the people, the needy people on ground, and that has to be done in a way that is entirely honest. I think another problem that we face is that every crisis people face, we will always find some people who are out there to cheat the poor, who want to step inside and be a part of some sort of pilferage. Of course, we are being very strict about it. We will take the strictest possible action. That does not mean it has not happened. That does not mean that misinformation has not spread. Not all poor people know that this is available for them, and this is how they have to go ahead and do it.
All right.
So,
Yeah, I think we've lost Professor Gaurav Vallabh.
yeah,
I
I
would have,
think he's off
for
mic.
yeah, I want to ask him a question and for him to add his opinion here. But let me bring in Chetan, our senior editor at Hindustan Times. Chetan, the opposition says that the cash in hand was a better option than the current food grain stimulus that has been given to respective migrant workers. Your take on this, please.
No, cash in the times of lockdown is not a very good option because going out is a problem. Buying the stuff is a problem. But if you get a food grain, you can cook it and eat it. So, and food grain, you can't barter through any other thing. Like the money, if you get money, you can buy something else also. It is not necessarily that you will buy a food grain. So the argument has always been in the country that you should not replace food grains with the direct benefit transfer system. When there was a lot of talk in the UPA also that the PDS should be replaced with direct money transfer. The same amount of money can be given to the poor households, and then they can buy the food grains at the market rate. But the argument was that how will you ensure that these families buy food grains for that money? So I think that giving food grains, extra food grains, is a good way to deal with the situation of lockdown, where the people are not earning any sort of money, where the poor are on the margins, where even getting work under Manrega is becoming difficult because a large number of people have enrolled for Manrega, and creating that sort of work in such a short span is extremely difficult for the state governments. So there is no better option than food. So I would like to add, if you can add more stuff in the to the PDS, in addition to what is being provided, the food grains, if you can, some pulses have also been given. If you can increase the number of pulses, you can have eggs. You can have other stuff also given through the PDS, which is for a household, the entire thing, the oil. Even if the vegetables can be supplied through the PDS system, it will become a wholesome shop,
Yeah.
a system mechanism to provide the wholesome meal to the family. So I think, going ahead, we should make a PDS a viable system, because the PDS shop is there in every village, and it is the best way to provide immediate food relief to people, which is the basic need of for sustaining human life. So I think that replacing food grains with money is a very, very bad idea. It should never even be thought about.
All
No,
right.
in fact, I've taken your suggestion really well, Chetan. That's very well said, because food needs to reach people directly, and sometimes money could be misused, because we have seen, and we were even talking about it, the long queues which uh, were outside all the liquor shops that opened, and we still had women saying we have no food to eat. So maybe if there was some money in hand, it was being spent on things which are not essential. Right now, buying that liquor is not essential, but the women and the children in the family will be lacking food, and the money will be spent elsewhere. So I'm in complete agreement with you, and this is a very good suggestion, and the PDA system has done good work. I think two things we need to focus on: one, improving the communication between the government and between the people on ground, so that they know exactly what their rights are. And we have to make sure that the money which comes is spent at exactly the right place. If not, the food stuff or the food material is given directly.
Okay, and with that, I think we're running out of time, Charu. Thank you for your time. Chetan, thank you for your time. My only
Done.
hope is
Thank
that,
you, Aditi.
right, it is, that truck drivers, even now I'm getting in reports that truck drivers are charging 4,000 to 5,000 per seat from migrants wanting to leave Mumbai and go north. Of course, social distancing norms also are completely being thrown to the winds with this. Taking this into account, it would have just probably made much more sense to simply run more trains and sort of let people move and get back to their home stations, because uh, the migrants are continuing to walk, continuing to, have horror stories to share, and it's heart wrenching at times to see what is happening, and the homeless and the hungry walking hundreds and thousands of miles on their own. But we'll keep coming back to you with more. Let's hope the migrants are all safe and they reach their homes safely, and the food trains come to their aid sooner than later. Thank you so much for joining us for this broadcast. Keep watching Hindustan Times.com.